Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is February the 16th, 2018. Strong hand, be in motion, long-term thinking. All right, people, I am really pumped for this show because we've got the returning guest. The great MoneyTrigz is here. Russell Spears is here. You know these dudes. And we also have Giuseppe Stuto coming from Boston. He's going to talk about some privacy issues. And I know we're going to talk about the price. We're going to talk about privacy. We're going to talk about Ethereum. We're going to talk about everything today, but I want to start it out with Giuseppe. Giuseppe, tell the world, the people here, some of these people don't know who you are because you haven't been on the show before, so give a little brief description and then jump into the why privacy is important, what's going on in the world of privacy and Bitcoin and crypto today.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Adam. So my background, I'm a software professional from Boston, Massachusetts. I co-founded a consumer software company called FAM. And I run that alongside my co-founders here in Boston. And I'm involved with the Bitcoin private open source community. So I've been an early contributor on that initiative and currently help lead their open source marketing and public relations initiative, and also help out with a lot of the operations and everything else. And you know, what attracted me to this project, some people are aware of it, some people are not. So Bitcoin private is the upcoming hard fork. Coming up later this month. Technically, the snapshot's on February 28th, and then 2 days later is the actual mainnet launch. And it's one of a kind where it's a fork merge of the Z Classic blockchain and the Bitcoin blockchain. But we can get into that if necessary. But more so on the higher level notion of privacy today in cryptocurrency, I think it's a fascinating topic. You know, there's solutions from the Zero Cash team with the Zero protocol, with that of zero knowledge proofs. That is the only mathematically provable form of anonymity that I've seen. And then there's also many other neat solutions for that of privacy. And, you know, the way that we like to see, you know, why privacy is an important topic is because just like any software problem or any, especially with relation to peer-to-peer electronic cash transactions, it's something that definitely, you know, people need to continue to iterate on, which is what this project is doing and what the team behind Bitcoin Private is doing. And also the teams behind all these other privacy projects are doing. They're highly capable teams. And no one's quite, in our opinion, figured it out in the sense of how to implement the best privacy solution to a mainstream audience, right? The latter part is incredibly important, where although the technology may exist, it doesn't mean that it's hit a mainstream audience yet. And that's what, you know, from a technological standpoint and also from just an adoption standpoint, what we're trying to build towards. And I mean, that's kind of my high level thoughts. We can get deeper, but
well, let me ask you a question here.
Sure.
I consider privacy to be very important. I think, and you basically imply there's no easy solution to privacy yet, or mainstream solution to privacy yet. I think most of the people that are in cryptocurrency right now, they don't care about privacy. I don't. So I mean, do you agree with that? That right now the masses, they probably don't really.
Sure.
They're interested in be private because they are Z Classic holders and they want to get that. It's a unique way of getting a Bitcoin crypto dividend, a Bitcoin fork.
Sure. So that's a great statement. And I think that's what makes it an incredibly fascinating problem to work on. I agree with you that, you know, relatively speaking, a large portion of the cryptocurrency community is unaware of privacy really not being solved at a mainstream point. But I think that that's a good thing, at least, you know, for the teams that are working on these problems, because typically, you know, if you look at major disruptive technologies in the history of technology, crypto or non-crypto related, typically these types of solutions are worked on before the masses are even aware of the problem. And there are definitely use cases where you need 100% anonymity, one of it being, you know, store of value. For example, at least for me personally, right? I mean, if you look at the history before the internet, you know, you have safety deposit boxes, which are mainstream. You have your bars of gold. Do you want people knowing how many bars of code you have stored in your safety deposit box. So, you know, and that's just one use case, but I think pointing to that use case, in our opinion, is enough of a touch point worth, you know, kind of making this more of a mainstream.
Now, I want to move to MoneyTrigz, because MoneyTrigz, you are a guy who's interested in these Z forks and stuff. Do you have an opinion? Do you think that their privacy technology, the ones that, you know, the Zcash, the Z Classic, is better than the Monero technology? Or I mean, do you know about these things?
Well, you know, the protocol itself is more privacy driven. Just, you know, you look at Monero, they don't even have like a mobile wallet out yet. So, you know, you know, maybe the 300 hackers are using it, yeah, but everybody else has been waiting for, you know, at least a ledger integration to store it offline, a freaking mobile wallet to use it. You know, I love the privacy coins. I'm just waiting to use it.
Okay, that's interesting. Have you heard about this Monero fork, the Monero V fork, by any chance? I've been talking about it a little bit on the channel.
No, I haven't. I've been so busy. I haven't been watching many podcasts these days.
Yeah. It's some other. I think some people. I think no. I think the reason I brought it up is because you sound frustrated with Monero, and I think there are other people out there that are.
No, I'm frustrated that how the hell are they, you know, basically so big and there's not a mobile wallet out, or I can't store it offline with a hardware wallet. It's becoming frustrating.
Well, one thing I knew. Oh, sorry, someone's about to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think just generally speaking, it's you know, I think that's the importance of the software teams behind these projects, because I totally agree with you. I think having a vision and having a prospect, and then actually that being kind of viably implemented, are two totally different things. I think there's definitely a need for making.
You know, actually, I have a question about the whole implementation of a lot of these altcoins. I think that, you know, B Gold, if anything, it represented the ideal attempt to give a proportional airdrop of these forks, and they did it right. They got this thing listed. A lot of these new alts, I think, are not approaching it the right way. They're making it kind of difficult to access these tokens. It's not kind of proportional in a way, and I guess in a way, what's going to matter for these airdrops is that, one, they innovate in areas that are important. And I think privacy is one of those areas. I think B Gold's trying to innovate in the back end, decentralizing the mining. So I see those two as really good projects. But I think there's a problem with people not doing the airdrop properly. It shouldn't be a task on the holder side. It should simply be implied in their holdings in Bitcoin at whatever time they want to go ahead and say, take ownership of that token. You know what I mean? And there's going to be probably thousands of these privacy attempts in this coming 2 years, you know? But like I said, though, I do get that privacy is important. I think it's underestimated. Right now, I think Adam's right. We have a culture right now that doesn't seem to appreciate it. I think it's because we're disempowered. I think once we become more empowered, we're going to have more concern over privacy.
Totally.
But
agree.
I think, like, Bitcoin can't take up, I think, privacy for a utilitarian purpose. You know, to me, it needs to be open, right, enough that it could be, I don't know, friendly to a culture of suspicion, right? Because that's where we're at. But I think it also needs to be closed enough. I think that it's going to discourage mass surveillance. So are you guys approaching this in a way that's a balanced area in that area too? Because again, I'm thinking long term. You know, if you guys do this right, if you do the airdrop right, where everybody will hold it, because that's what's going to matter at the end of the day, is that these people will hold that token. If they don't hold it, in my opinion, it becomes a hostile fork, no matter how friendly they sound.
To be clear, this is with respect to Bitcoin private. You're I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, definitely, because you're on that. Yeah.
Sure. So I think with respect to the airdrop, we're certainly doing everything from the open source community standpoint, everything possible to make this as user friendly as possible. I totally agree with you there. From the airdrop standpoint, I mean, there's 3 wallets on the Z Classic side that are currently supported to try and make it as easy as possible. You know, going later closer to the fork date, we'll be educating people a lot more on how they can claim the Bitcoin private, and also hold on to it. From kind of answering the second part of your question, and actually, is there going to be a good balance? At first, the way it's going to work is there's both. It'll support both transparent and shielded transactions. So the shielded part obviously comes from the Zero protocol, and the transparent ones not. And we'll be supporting both of those, but we do have plans to naturally or potentially shift towards making shielded transactions the default. And then we're going to try and align that from a roadmap standpoint with rolling out things such as mobile products. So like to MoneyTrigz standpoint, is this, yes, shielded transactions are your default, but are they actually usable, right? And that's why we're going to be trying to align the different parts of our technology to make it so that both will be usable.
Excellent. You know what? I didn't know you were part of the, I knew you were dealing with the fork. I didn't know you're officially part of the marketing team over there, or is it a kind of unofficial, or? It's
interesting. Well, there's no centralized entity, right? Yeah. So it's a question of how you look at it. But yeah, yes, it is. Yes, I am part of the contribution team.
It's just so funny. I was trying to get Rhett on this show also, but I had no idea you guys even knew each other or anything. I didn't.
Yeah, we were actually together at this. We had a conference in New York City.
Yeah. I was telling people about it. I want this to be. I believe. I'm biased. I've said it many times. I believe this is going to be the biggest fork since the B Gold one. And it really, I hope behind the scenes, I know you guys can't really talk about this, that you're working with Bittrex, and because there's a lot of people that are holding their Z Classic there, and that they'll split it there. And I hope Trezor jumps on this. I'm going to make some videos just encouraging it, because I'm all about Bitcoin. I'm all about holding Bitcoin. And I want my fellow Bitcoin holders to be able to get this thing as easy as possible and store it as easy as possible on their Trezor, or, God forbid, if they have the Z Classic on an exchange, they're credited with their B private immediately and take it off right away and put it on their Trezor.
I'm also concerned, once we I guess gain access to these tokens, we've taken on a tax liability as well.
That's not officially, you can. That's not super official yet.
Really?
I'm not a tax. You know what? I don't like talk. You see, we're going to confuse the world if we start talking about what's a tax liability and what's not a tax liability in terms of dividends.
I feel you.
I do not. I'm not a tax, and I don't even. Some people have asked about that before, and I just don't even answer, because it's like, what? The IRS doesn't know what that stuff even is yet. Right now, as I have said many a times, what the IRS cares about is you turning your cryptocurrency into fiat. And all the people that are signed up on Coinbase that have done that panic sold and did all this craziness, they're the ones that are being targeted. They're the ones that are going to have to worry, because they went into fiat. And I do want to one real quick thing. We got a super chat. First of all, pound that like button, everybody, if you like this and love this panel. We'll get to MoneyTrigz in a second. But in the super chat here, Chris Mezzacappa Jr. said, for $5, thank you, Chris, by the way, many people think privacy isn't possible in this age. We must continue to educate on best practices. Pound that like button and check out bitconsult.co. bitconsult.co. Well, I hope that's a good site, because I just I gave you a promo there, but I do agree with you that many people think they don't think privacy. They think privacy isn't possible in this age, but it is possible, and cryptocurrency is going to figure this out.
Well, yes. We know it's possible.
And I wish, yes,
but I think the concern is this mass surveillance. I think that's. Well, I'm thinking of it in terms of the free market. The free market's going to preference, I think, things that move away from mass surveillance. I think there's enough interest in moving away from mass surveillance. So I think Bitcoin as it is, it's already kind of hard for the government to transit and follow everybody's transactions, but it's easy enough for them to follow a particular path if they have certain people of interest, right? I think there's always going to be a balance in this free market. If people start to have more of a concern over, mass surveillance, you have another Edward Snowden dump, and we see this stuff. People may want to prefer to see updates with Bitcoin that make it a little bit harder. But I don't think Bitcoin's ever going to be a privacy token, only because we still live in a culture that fears terrorism and what have you. So on that level, there's always going to be a market balance, I think, with Bitcoin. Whereas it'll create, I think, an opportunity for altcoins to take that up as a privacy. Again, right now, Zcash and Monero, these are hostile tokens. And if people don't, if what you guys do in terms of your airdrop, if it isn't proportional, fair, and these things, your token will end up being a hostile token as well. Your guys' aim should be to encourage people to hold it, to make it easy for everybody that's holding Bitcoin to own it. And I think you're just going to see a lot of competition. If you guys don't do it right, another guy's going to come right down behind you and just fork whatever you're doing and out, you know?
That's a good point.
I mean, that's a good point. I think let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's see it happen February 28th. They're gonna have to prove themselves. We'll see how legit it is. I hope it's as legit as it can be. And good luck to and we will keep everyone updated on that situation. I want to move the MoneyTrigz though real quick with something else that's been in the news that we're all going to have opinions about. It seems like, even though we've known about this for a while, proof of stake, proof of work, the proof of stake Ethereum. This is something that's been coming down the pipeline for a while with Vitalik, and now there's noise about it. And you tweeted about this or retweeted about it, MoneyTrigz. What are your thoughts on the situation? And what are all these people that built ICOs on top of Ethereum? They have no clue about this. So is this going to cause a panic? What's going to happen to the ICOs? Or is life just going to go on and they're not going to know this is even happening and it's all going to go smoothly? And everyone's going to stick with what Vitalik says and there's going to be no fork. MoneyTrigz.
Yeah, so basically it'll be whatever Vitalik and his little group says will happen. And then, it'll be a battle of the miners because if you look last week, Bitmain just tweeted out that they're selling ASIC miners for Ethereum, right? That they're selling their badge. So what's going to happen to all that hardware? You have to ask, right? So they'll be trying to fork the chain to see if they maybe can keep the chain alive, or which most of the market might be betting on is that they'll migrate to Ethereum Classic, right? That's why you saw people like Jihan Wu and the other big miners were at the Ethereum Classic Hong Kong conference, where excellent point there, by the way. I had no idea you were going to say that. There, right?
I think that statement says a lot, really. Right,
I mean, that was huge. That was just huge. What you just, I mean, you're breaking it down here, buddy, man. That's why people should watch.
I'll give you the inside scoop. Okay, right? I'm a trader, right?
Please.
Right?
Continue,
so,
please.
In the lines, I already bought a bunch and I bought more. But as soon as I saw that Jihan Wu was there with all the big guys sponsoring and they're completely in an Ethereum Classic, it's going to be very clear that they'll dump Ethereum, get a bunch of money, and hello, Ethereum Classic, cheap coins. And that's why they have their little puppet, Jeff Garcic, had announced his coin ICO on Ethereum Classic and not Ethereum. So they're basically already trying to kind of pump it from the back.
Look, wow. even on Ethereum itself, I just feel like, like Vitalik himself, he's such a huge influence on that community and where it's going. And, I think he's a little too comfortable with centralization. I mean, he's very outspoken now. I think he's getting a little bit more disillusioned as well. But, these guys have been getting beat up all the time, I think, as well. So I think there's a lot of fatigue in that area. And I think that's another reason why centralization or any kind of having a spokesperson is really a bad thing.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt having a dictator in this space is a bad thing. But the general public, the 80% doesn't care. But I gotta say, I brought up this topic because I thought we were gonna talk about how there's gonna be an Ethereum 3, and there still might be a fork. I did not think about the option of all these dudes just, instead of creating a new version of Ethereum Classic, which basically this would be if Vitalik went proof of stake, just to go to Ethereum Classic. And and Jihan Wu, you were saying MoneyTrigz was at a big Ethereum Classic event.
At the Hong Kong yearly one. There's a yearly Hong Kong conference for Ethereum Classic for everybody to, meet with each other because they work with each other, right? And Jihan Wu and all the biggest miners were there with Barry Silbert and everybody else, right?
Dude, this is such a scoop, man. I didn't even put this in the title of the video. So anyone who's watching this video, I'm not going to put it in the title of the video. I'm letting all the smart people who actually pay attention and have listening comprehension learn about what might be happening here. I mean, that's why Ethereum Classic's price has been going up. I thought it was because they were doing their cheap little crypto dividend. They're having their own little fork too. So
look what happens. Listen, this kind of stuff has happened in the past with much smaller coins, which the Chinese miners were market makers, right? Like Veracoin. Veracoin was a proof of stake coin, and it pumped and it pumped. It was on MintPal and it pumped. When they announced that they were doing a proof of stake algo change, that price went down and it never came back up, right? Because they went to something else, right? So the miners, listen, you know how much money they make right now with Ethereum? Okay, every little token, sending a little transaction, smart contract, whatever, is paying right now $1.05. Okay, because I use it, right? So they are making so much freaking money with Ethereum right now. There is no other choice for them to migrate, keep the hardware working, but then also promote it, right? And just keep it going, because proof of stake is basically just nuclear for a miner. When they hear proof of stake, you basically just brought out the nuclear weapon on them.
Well, I think also one of the things.
Wait, Russell, I got to do a follow up with that real quick. If they move to Ethereum Classic, if Jihan chooses Ethereum Classic, do you think these ICOs are going to start building their stuff on Ethereum Classic? And what is going to happen to the ICOs that are on Ethereum? Are they going to have to?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to ask, Adam.
Okay, very good. Very good. Sorry.
No, that's right. That's a good question. That's obvious.
The ICOs, remember, what will happen is Ethereum Classic will be cheaper to transact. So suddenly everybody's like, oh, Ethereum Classic's much better, right? Because it's cheaper. That's one. And then the ecosystem will be based off of the proof of stake. So whoever is holding the coins will be making that money by validating it in the protocol, right? But you have suddenly Grayscale Investments, which has an investment fund for Ethereum Classic. You have them with the biggest miners, Bitmain, and everybody else that's now pushing badges of ASIC miners for freaking Ethereum, okay? So you're talking about hundreds of millions in hardware. Like it's very smart of them actually to do it, right? Because they're driven by profits. And if you read between the lines again, just like they went to the conference, why do you think their little puppet, Jeff Garzik, which does any development work they want with their forks and attacks, why is suddenly his ICO being done on Ethereum Classic? Ask yourself that question.
Yeah.
Because they're backing his project point. So they're telling him to do it on Ethereum Classic because our hardware will be mining that coin. We know this, so you do it there.
Let me ask you also with Barry Silbert, he was the one who originally came up with the, it wasn't that long ago, with the 2x compromise, wasn't he? He was the New York Agreement. He made the New York Agreement,
yeah.
And
he's a businessman, so he wants to play Switzerland. He's not a developer. He's not a cyberpunk, so he doesn't understand the dangers of centralizing Bitcoin by giving giving repository access to the miners and Jeff Garzik.
Yeah, but I understand that the reason I bring that up is during that whole little conference, New York Agreement, he got to know Jihan, didn't he? I mean, he was involved with Jihan back then, is my point, correct?
Yeah, correct, 100%.
He had to be. So, they could be working behind. their connections are deep. Their connections are clearly deep. They're friends. They
but profits, it's always profits driven, So the Ethereum Classic is basically like the only move to do, because to fight and do a third fork would cost just so much money and would be stupid, because ETC is right there.
Well,
right?
I think getting back to what Adam was trying to imply is that, there's a lot of people who already have these ECR tokens, these ICO tokens represented on the regular Ethereum. I don't see how that's going to be an easy transition if they want to set it up over there, because these people are holding these tokens apart from these platforms now. Like me, for instance, I love pre-search, right? I'm into it. But to me, I have the tokens, but it's no longer in pre-search's control. It's under my control on Ethereum. Now, what happens when they split is one of the questions I thought we were going to raise today. But I find this more interesting. Really.
Yes, I agree with you. That was what I was. But maybe they're not going to split. So we're not going to have to worry about it.
There won't be a split. It'll just be hash rate changing to Ethereum Classic, and suddenly the price is exploding because the market making is going on that end.
And Russell, I don't think that. And so then the people who have already created their ICOs on Ethereum, they won't even know. They won't even care, as long as their ICOs are still alive on Ethereum, and Ethereum will still be alive. It'll just be
exactly.
So you're thinking that this is interesting now, because the people who are holding tokens from the ICOs, are you guys saying that there's a possibility that they could be basically set afloat?
No, they're cool. They'll be cool in this situation. Under that scenario, what I was worried about was if if a third Ethereum came out, then wouldn't they have duplicate tokens on that new Ethereum?
That's what I was thinking we were going to talk about. It's going to fork.
You know what? This is
that would
more
be problematic.
This is more interesting. This is I like this. I think this scenario is much more likely, and I think a lot of people who are watching this right now are going wild, saying, "But I have not heard this anywhere else." And obviously, other people are thinking about it, because that's why Ethereum Classic is clearly pumping. And so, wait a second, Giuseppe, you haven't spoken for a while. Give us your thoughts on all this.
Well, no, I was kind of, I don't want to say caught off guard, but we kind of gravitated towards a different potential fork, right? Or a fork in the road, where I didn't consider it at all. MoneyTrigz, those are amazing observations, and I think it makes total sense. I think that the indicator there to keep an eye on is the hash rate. And if we see, it shifting to more towards Ethereum Classic, I think this theory will definitely has a good likelihood of playing out. And it actually is safer for Russ, the points that you were bringing up, for the kind of existing tokens who have already ICO'd and who depend on the Ethereum blockchain. I think that it'll mitigate any disruption in that sense. So, I mean, it sounds like it's from a theoretical standpoint, it's in the best interest of all Ethereum stakeholders. If you compare, doing a fork of Ethereum, a third one, right, or just shifting to Ethereum Classic, the latter sounds more logical, I think, based on at least from these indicators and just looking at the landscape.
Well, I hope at the end of the day this plays out bad for this Ethereum project. I'm not too happy with it. I'm hoping that they'll go through their little moment as Bitcoin's rising. I think at the best year ever.
Right. I think
no. Someone was about to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, and then there's the prospect of, we didn't touch on it too much, but centralization, right? I think this makes it, someone can always say, do we have any proof or evidence that, proof of stake has been hacked in the past? But I don't think that's the question we should be asking. I think the question we should be asking is, how much more centralized do things become, or do things become centralized?
No, to me, it's more about complexity. This monster that they've created and unleashed in this crypto, area, it's like a Windows laptop, right? And connected to the internet, holding $80 billion for anybody to hack. And then you create this mess where they want to take this chunk of code and slap it over here, and you got thousands of these ICOs now in this mix. It looks like a disaster waiting to happen. Now everybody that talks about Bitcoin being slim and not having all these fandangles, now they're gonna eat their words.
All right. Well, we have this has been really I've learned a lot from this segment, and everyone out there, pound that like button because I try to bring on the best guest in the space here. Okay, and you're going to learn something when you watch this show. Okay, you're going to hear stuff you're not going to hear anywhere else because we're thinkers. We're long-term thinkers. Here, I'm really loving this thing. So we're speaking about long-term thinkers. Let's talk about some toxicity that seems to have gone away lately. For some reason, a lot of people were saying Bitcoin was about to die, and now its price in terms of dollars, and I don't care about its price in terms of dollars that much, but a lot of people clearly do, has gone up again, and that toxicity is gone, or it's quieted down. And I just wanted to hear everybody's thoughts on where they think Bitcoin is going. And I know the three guys here, they didn't panic or anything, but the toxicity that is caused by the no coiners, the crypto noisemakers, it really can weaken some people's hands, and it's just so unfortunate. So we'll start with Giuseppe here. What do you think about the Bitcoin situation for this week, next month, this year? What's going on? Positive, negative?
I mean, the way I like to talk to my friends and people who aren't in crypto and don't understand software and all that, I think what it comes down to is educating people that you cannot neglect the fact that there are several years worth of research, iteration, community development that have gone into Bitcoin. This is more abstract and high level, but that alone should tell you that this project is just not going anywhere. There's no, it is truly in my opinion, really the only proven blockchain project to be conceived in the history of cryptocurrency. And I think the supporting evidence to that is just the scale it's hit. No one else has hit that scale. How it's worked at that scale. How you have a development team and development community that continues to stick around and continues to innovate. And all of these touch points, I think it comes down to educating people. And I think that if you look at the growth of the cryptocurrency space, and if you want to define growth by market cap, whatever, there's different ways of quantifying it. Over the past few months, several months, it's really been at an exponential rate that I'm pretty sure anyone here, or correct me if I'm wrong, didn't expect it to grow that quickly. I'm confident it's going to continue to grow and grow even larger, but the rate at which it grew and the magnitude to which it grew was definitely unprecedented. And it's going to come, I think, with these educational setbacks, right? Where it's just impossible for people to come in at that rate and to also understand which projects or project is really of true quality versus the ones that have yet to even scratch the surface of figuring it out. Yes, it's unfortunate, but I think that it's going to get better, I think, over the next several weeks, months, years. And that's my take.
Good steady approach there. Russell, any thoughts?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I think the most exciting part is we're moving towards this moment where we're gaining a lot of clarity in terms of what was actually important about blockchain. And I think it was the fact that it was a global ledger of agreement. And I think one of the things that we've always wanted agreement on is value, not transactions. And I think as long as that narrative about medium of exchange starts to move to the side, and we start to understand that we gain our economic sovereignty by having access and control over our store of value. The medium of exchange is whatever. You use, Chuck E. Cheese tokens if you have to. But I think as we're moving along, we're going to see, I think, to me, I always mention the Hydra, but people get misled by that. I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, the strongest system I can imagine is one where you have an anchor, a store of value, a global ledger of agreement. And from that, you're going to have all these altcoins that are just going to start coming off from. And I think as long as they can keep buy-in, you're creating an infrastructure where you're just all possible innovation moving forward. And they're going to be less blockchain, in my opinion. None of these altcoins will be able to do what Bitcoin does. And it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be the most secure, doesn't have to be the most private, but you're going to have to prove yourself in the market.
Indeed. That's where the big boys play. That's how real markets are supposed to work, actually. MoneyTrigz. Anything to add? Any Bitcoin revelations that you have that were just like your Ethereum Classic one there? My God, that was pretty awesome.
I'll say from the ground, I'll say necessity drives growth, right? Because we operate a few Bitcoin ATMs and some other businesses, and I can tell you this, for maybe U.S. people, other people around in Europe, it's easy to buy and sell Bitcoin, but just for example, on a Caribbean island, right? You would think they have everything. It is very, very difficult for them to buy Bitcoin. Our ATM will be sold out and it sells for 25% premium, right? We don't have enough inventory. Like, it'll be sold out and then we have to move the money, bank, long list. It has to be sent, wired. And that's on a Caribbean island, which has big hotels, tourists, and everything. So what my point is a lot of people are buying and are paying 20-30% premiums, and they wouldn't have a way to sell. Like, these are really, really long-term holders. So as we grow, as access becomes easier, because South America, Africa, a lot of these countries, like, I have family there, and I talk to the friends. When I asked PayPal, they didn't even know what PayPal was. So I didn't even dare to ask if they knew what Bitcoin was, right? But just now, I'm going to send some money, and there's a business in that city that will take the Bitcoin and then do a local bank transfer for them. So they'll be receiving money indirectly with Bitcoin right now. So really, really, people are obsessed with the price, and oh my God, listen. If you right now just buy whatever you're comfortable with and come back in a few years when all this has expanded like the internet has and still is being integrated into business, you'll be very happy. And yes, you'll also have financial sovereignty because nobody can take it from you. We've been saying this for a very long time. But right now we're at, with layer 2 scaling, I don't even have to start. You guys were talking about privacy. Layer 2 scaling is what's going to bring the privacy to Bitcoin, right? It's going to be done on the second layer in Lightning Network. We'll be getting a lot more privacy. So we're really at the beginning.
I think there's a couple businesses right now, right? There's a couple groups that are actually they're linking identities up with all of these accounts already. I don't know if we're going to be able to avoid that. Maybe our spending habits will be anonymous, but not the accounts.
Right.
Well,
and I also think that
if you have mixers and second layer mixers, and you'll be cross-chain atomic swapping, you'll be able to get your privacy done. It just depends who you are. Are you that searched for, or just don't you want to pay tax?
I think
there are certain things.
I think
if people are worried about privacy, they're going to use these other altcoins. They're not going to use Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I think
they're moving away from it.
To Russell's case, I think it depends on use case. I think that the way I like to look at it is, I like to say when it comes to our privacy, we shouldn't rely on a consequence, right? Lightning Network is a scaling solution. A consequence of that is these forms of privacy, but that doesn't mean that it's intended for privacy. And also, too, if you look at it technologically and mathematically, even with, I was just looking at the latest rendering of the Lightning Network on topology on the mainnet, there's a lot of redundancy, which is good. That's a good thing when it comes down to decentralization and even this consequence of privacy. But there's still these centralized nodes that are larger than others, and depending on how you send it, what channel you're on, or what hop you're on, and you got to think, just like infrastructure is building for blockchain-related projects related to privacy, they're building for forensic purposes too. So the Bitfuries of the world are going to get stronger. So I think that it's just the way I like to look at it. Is it mathematically proven or not?
Well, and Andreas actually, I think, spoke to a little bit of this last night. Great podcast. I love the guy. He's blocked me, but I can't go there. I love the guy. But my point is that he's actually talked about that. He goes, on the Lightning, it's you're going to put some value on that chain. You're going to open up a payment node, channel. And it, of course, payment channel, and you're just going to find yourself susceptible to a hack. But that susceptibility, that vulnerability on Lightning will help decentralize it, because people are not going to put a whole bunch of money on one node. They're going to put it on thousands of nodes or hundreds of nodes. So I think that may be a really positive part that addresses both the privacy and what have you. But you know, go ahead.
It is amazing. People are very excited about Lightning Network. And I think what MoneyTrigz was implying is there are going to be other layer 2 solutions we cannot even think of yet. Imagine the excitement. Imagine the excitement that's going to be around them. I mean, I get asked wherever I go about the freaking Lightning Network, and I'm no tech genius, so I can't answer all their questions.
What people, I'm sorry I have to interrupt you, but what people don't have to forget is the power of Bitcoin is the sustainability of the hundreds of developers we have working on it and nobody paying them to do so. So that's the big advantage over altcoins, is the massive brain power behind it.
But I also think that it's just a dumb network. Look, with all these layer 2s and layer 3s adding complexity, that we're avoiding I think the very reason why Ethereum is going to learn this year why complexity doesn't pay, because Wall Street's watching. They're watching this mess outplay now. They're like, well, wait a minute. We just went through some mess with Bitcoin. I'm into this stuff, and I still don't know what's going to happen with these ECR20. I don't know what's going to happen to my tokens, my ICO tokens. But I'm going to say this, that Wall Street's going to avoid that like the plague. And that's going to be another part of this that's going to play out. But in terms of being excited about this technology, I don't know too many people are excited about adding more complexity to Ethereum. But they're going to be excited about adding second and third layer to Bitcoin.
Right. And the proposals are getting better. Like there's Mimblewimble, which is another privacy proposal. And I think that MoneyTrigz, you hit on a good point, right? I think that's the indicator I always like to look at that I alluded to earlier, where you have the most talented cryptographers and engineers working on Bitcoin as volunteers, essentially, right? And I think that's a huge indicator. And I mean, there are some other communities, won't say any names, that want to self-promote, but that have also that kind of volunteer community that has come together, I mean, in a short period of time for a specific use case of privacy to keep in mind. So the use cases, I think, will fragment, is my point.
All right. I want to move on. And by the way, MoneyTrigz, at the end of the show, you got to tell us about this radio station thing that you tweeted about. I just remember that. I mentioned it on my another show of mine too. I think it's a unique idea of combining the old and the new. But let's talk real quick. The word scam has been thrown about so much in this in our ecosystem, and it's like the boy who cried wolf with some people, because you don't know what's a scam. Do they mean this is like BitConnect bad, or I mean, so is everything a BitConnect now? I mean, I've lost it's lost meaning. So we're going to talk about that. But the reason I bring this up is the Commodity and Futures Trading Commission, CFTC. I linked to this below. They made an announcement. They're looking for scams and pump and dumps in the ICO and cryptocurrency, and which there are in ICOs, there are a lot of pump and dumps, and they are willing to pay people. They're willing to pay snitches. So did any of you guys read that article that I sent? I think I sent it to all of you. Giuseppe, what's your thoughts on that? Should the CFTC be policing and looking for snitches in ICOs? What's a scam? What's not? Who should decide what's a scam? What's not? What is a scam? What's going on?
It's a very good question and topic. I think it's an important one. I took a look at it. I think that, so it's a question of well, embedded in there is a question of regulation. I think that's a very touchy subject. I think to the extent that it bolsters the infrastructure, and I think that it increases one's belief into the credibility of cryptocurrency, it's a good thing, because I think that ultimately, if we think this is going to continue to grow at the rate it is, which I think we believe that's the case, it is going to be impossible for the people coming in to be fully educated. And I think that there's going to be bad actors in any community. And I think for the egregious cases, which I don't want to say any names, but there have been some pretty egregious cases where you have retail individuals who are buying these tokens, et cetera, that are getting ripped off. And I think that that is something that I'm for, to a certain extent, helping those people out in certain unique cases.
Well, you're talking about a space that engenders a huge amount of complexity. I don't think there's going to be a single person in the history moving forward that will be an expert and will understand this enough to make a decent decision. This is going to be guesswork moving forward.
Among government regulators, definitely, they don't know the first thing about anything.
There's hopeless.
Well, I think it comes down to
yes. There's hopeless. And an educated guess.
That's why they're offering bribes right now. Well, continue. Sorry, Giuseppe. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, I think it depends on what part of the world you're in, right? I think that in the U.S., they're pretty aggressive. The regulatory bodies have made it clear that they're going to learn more and more about this. And I mean, I don't know for sure, but I'm sure they're looking into different entities that facilitate these types of transactions and the buying and selling, et cetera. And in doing so, I think that is where more compliance will be embedded. But once again, this is an international ecosystem, so it'll be interesting. Are those kind of those efforts going to actually be viable? Because it doesn't play with everyone else's rules from other countries.
Well, here's the thing. You people who want to buy ICOs, beware. Just be careful. If you don't know what you're doing, don't buy it. I'm not here to bail you out with my taxes, okay? Don't expect a bailout, all right? You hear now that the government is concerned and maybe that makes you feel better. And so, no, be a long-term thinker. If you don't know where you're getting into, don't get into it. It's your fault. It's your fault if you buy these ICOs, people. It's your fault. And so I don't, I try to avoid situations where the regulation comes in because it's usually because a bunch of foolish people made foolish mistakes and the government tries to put some weak Band-Aid on it. So now they've seen what happened with the BitConnect thing, and now they gave everyone a warning. Okay, that's nice. Thanks for the warning is what I'm saying. But now they're like looking for snitches. They're like, if you've got inside information, tell us and we'll give you a third of the value. I mean, the link is below. And so there's going to be false alerts. There's going to be false alarms. Yeah, just continue. Yes, Trigz. Sorry, Trigz.
It becomes a very gray area. Let's be honest here, guys. It's just another tool to put in place. So when they want to take something from somebody, they have it in law, right? Because what happens if an ex-girlfriend that's mad is going to be start giving tips on the boyfriend that has Bitcoin and is living good, and it's all false, and then come on. It's the U.S. government, right?
Well, I think the whole gist of these ICOs was actually decent. I mean, look, you got some. Look, I am all in favor of these huge, massive corporate monopolies being decentralized. And if you could find an open platform, like again, I'll use Presearch as an example, but you're talking about a group that is wanting to decentralize Google. My God, I would support that. Even if I lost my tokens, I don't care because my end goals, I think, are different.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that's fine. I think everyone should be entitled to do that. I'm not saying that the ICOs shouldn't exist. I think when most of these ICOs blow up, that the people who bought into them shouldn't go crying to the government and shouldn't expect the bailout. They should just know that is. So yeah, I agree. I think the IPO process, it gates off the common man, and the ICO lets you get in on the ground, let the regular men get on the ground level here, which is awesome. I think that's
I think that's why Bitcoin's became what it is. If Bitcoin was something that was centralized with these venture capitalist schemes that they have here in the U.S., that kind of monopoly on innovation we've already seen what it does. But of course, when we have this access like we do with Bitcoin, and that's one of the things I tried to push so early. I was like, look, this is the only big, huge technology. A guy on the street can come in and actually put a little bit in, and they had that opportunity. And, not for nothing, but I kind of do want Bitcoin to end up in the hands of the smart and disruptor groups, and I think for the most part it is. So when it bears fruit here in the next couple of years or maybe even a decade, who knows? I think those disruptive, smart minds are going to do a huge amount, which is speaking to that amount of innovation that we don't even estimate. That's underneath that little iceberg, So I'm excited about that.
Well, I'm the Disruptmeister here, and the Disruptmeister was saying back in 2015, you can look this up in the archives. I tell people to look in the archives all the time. I had a video that said something like, the Bitcoin is the Facebook IPO for the common man. This is your chance to you couldn't buy Facebook before it went, on the regular stock exchanges, like all the wealthy people could. But you could have gotten Bitcoin. And I was telling people this when Bitcoin was $400. So Russ, you were absolutely correct. And hopefully a lot of disruptive people, and the opportunity is still there. It's still very early in this Bitcoin thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what the message we've conveyed today. Giuseppe or MoneyTrigz, anything else you want to add to this discussion before we do our final thoughts? All right. So let's talk about Giuseppe. What's your story of anything you wanted to add? We're gonna tie the show up now. Anything you wanted to bring to the table that we haven't talked about today that you wanted to bring up?
No, not necessarily. No.
No more. So any more? People are you can say anything about be private you wanted.
So okay. So I mean, I didn't want to be redundant, but I mean, I think the final thoughts that I'd like to leave people with regard to Bitcoin private is there's a very strong team behind this. Like I said before, I've had the privilege to be able to just watch highly talented engineers from all over the world come together in a decentralized manner, the way it should be, and work on an open source project quite cohesively. And that is just a privilege in and of itself. And then to just layer on top of it the impact that it can have on a problem where, like you mentioned, Adam, so few people are even aware of. Where, as this continues to grow as an industry and it continues to grow as the most efficient and effective, peer-to-peer electronic cash method of transacting, you're going to then say, wow, I really need a good solution for 100% privacy, but I want to make sure that it's on a blockchain that I trust for my transacting, right? I think that this fork merge coming up, or hard fork, however you want to refer to it as, of Bitcoin private is going to be that solution. And there's a lot of exciting stuff in the pipeline for how it'll make it mainstream.
Excellent. Very good conclusionary remarks. And your first time guest appearance here was awesome. You're going to have to return. You've been a blast, man. Russell, thoughts, anything you want to bring up that we didn't talk about? Oh, you're muted, bro. You muted. There you go.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is I love the big picture thinking. Look, we need to think as a community, right? Or no, it doesn't have to be a group, really, honestly. But are we just wanting to be the next corporate monopolies? Or are we really going to think about a new paradigm moving into, creating a 21st economy? We're moving into a jobless future. There's big questions on the hand. And I'm interested in seeing if this community can move past the minutia and the technical details, which are important. I'm not negating that. But I mean, what's this future we're looking at? I'm hoping that the Bitcoin community can start having bigger discussions. And you don't have to include words like social justice if it's a stigma. But just know that there's a lot of words that have been used and abused that follow every one of these ideologies. But if we just move past it and look at something big, a bigger picture, that's what I'm excited about. Hopefully, and if you guys want that conversation, hit me up. I'd love to join in on it.
And everybody's links are listed below to all these guys. You can check them out below. I mean, we're the few, the proud, the 20%ers. Yes, we are. All right. So finally, MoneyTrigz. I want you to talk about this radio station thing a little bit, and just anything else you want to mention.
Okay, about the radio station, we're currently looking to launch or acquire a radio station that maybe wants to sell on the island of Aruba, because we're doing numerous business ventures there, and we had launched a very interesting coin for a project we have going on there. So the news is when we acquire the radio station, we'll be doing crypto podcast for 140,000 people, and then we'll have Bitcoin Meister on there as a regular also to broadcast his shows. So
I had no idea.
I'm sorry I forgot your name, talking about paradigm shift and stuff like that, you have many of us that now are in the opportunity financially to enhance the ecosystem. And therefore, right now we're paying radio ads. And I was like, why pay radio ads if we can just open our own radio and do it ourselves? So
now,
that's
when you
what
say
we're
we,
doing.
Who is we exactly? Who is we? Can you
Well,
say
it's funny. It's funny you say that, because it's actually the Bitcoin community on the island, right? I've hooked up with some friends there. They're all doing very well because they've been holding Bitcoin for a while. And everybody wants to help it grow and participate with other ventures on the side, but then with the influence of crypto, because we'll be organizing a Bitcoin conference that will be like a yearly event. Then we'll have the radio station. We already have the ATMs there. We're the only ATMs there that function.
In Aruba? Where is it? It's in Aruba? In Aruba?
Yeah, Caribbean island, Aruba.
Yeah, Aruba. Yeah, but you are in Spain. But I mean,
exactly.
Okay, continue.
Well, this is this is crypto. Listen, we have a community member in the Aruba project, which is from Nigeria, right? And this is because of Bitcoin. Like, I have friends all over the world because of Bitcoin.
Me too,
and we can transact and work. Listen, the ATM, I function, so I make the ATM function remotely. Like, it doesn't have to be done locally. I do it from across the world, and I make it function. I put the fees, I add the coins, I can hook it up to the exchange. I do it all remotely. Wow. So you can control 100 ATM machines behind one computer.
This is you're giving us some breaking news. Aruba, man, you're building. I haven't heard about much with Aruba and cryptocurrency. Now you're giving us all this Bitcoin Aruba information.
Well, let me tell you this. Because of our initiatives, because I haven't really been saying this publicly, because we've been ongoing, because of our movements and everything else. There's close to 20 businesses that accept Bitcoin, but also accept Aruba coin, which is like a token that we're doing for the locals there, because low barrier entry is a big problem there. Nobody wants to sell their Bitcoins, right? This is why I put an ATM there. Nobody wants to sell their Bitcoins. But if everybody got some free Aruba coin, guess what? Suddenly you have somebody close you can buy it and sell it from, and that you could exchange for crypto. So it excludes the bank.
Use is a store of value. And then you can have every other token you need.
Yeah, so actually, the concept of that was just have a low barrier entry, and then you can convert. Because the bank is what the problem is there. So that's a little, side project we have ongoing. But because of that project, we are promoting, like, I could add the link for the radios. We have a radio ad, but it talks about Bitcoin first, and then it introduces this token, right? So
I hope that this whole Aruba token thing works out for you, so other people in other countries can replicate it, because nobody in these other countries want to give up their cryptocurrency either. I mean, exactly. I talked to Tawanda Kembo, in Zimbabwe, about making something that would be to get them to be able to get on the way to enter Bitcoin with a token. So, I mean, this is, keep us updated with this to see if that's successful. If that's a good on-ramp, just creating this.
It has really, really much success, because basically we got 16 businesses, even a spa in the hotel, all accepting it, right? Because there's no internet banking there. Nobody uses their cards.
Look,
so everything is cash handled.
At the end of this, I really see governments. I know the community used to laugh at the idea of a Fed coin or a dollar coin. But I think they'll end up having something similar to it. It won't be a blockchain, but it'll be a kind of cryptocurrency, and it'll act as a medium of exchange. Yeah, nobody will care.
But the government will keep track of it and be able to turn people off. But people will have the smart option, to be in Bitcoin and not be in the matrix. But 80% of the people will choose to be in the government matrix coin. So, I mean, that's just the way it is, the 80% and the 20%. So be a 20%er, people.
Remember, the coin they'll make will also automatically take your tax off. So when you send 10, the 2 will be deducted. So they'll convert to crypto, because one, they could exchange with the Bitcoin and everything else very quickly and automate it, making them more money, but also give you their alternative, right? Which they can make unlimited amount of, while yours is scarce.
Yeah, I think these government crypto fiats are going to compete. I think in a free market, they're going to have to at least show a little bit more responsibility. But it's that store of value that's going to matter, guys. And that medium of exchange is going bye-bye. It's going right into Bitcoin, I think. Well, or the store of value.
One conclusionary remark I wanted to say for myself is that this Venezuela coin, Petro, that thing is supposedly coming out on the 20th, right? So we'll see. That's the first Fed coin out there for a country. We'll see how that goes, how legitimate that is, what happens with that, and how they keep track of their people, or if it's successful at all. That's just something to look forward to in the next couple of weeks for the people who are watching. We'll talk about that on a future This Week in Bitcoin. Maybe we'll have Maximo or Gabriel or somebody from Venezuela back on to give us an update about that. MoneyTrigz, anything else? I didn't want to cut you short or anything.
No, exciting times ahead, man. Buy your Bitcoin and wait for November, December. You're going to be very happy.
All right, guys. All right. Well, let's wrap it all up. I thank all of my guests. Again, it was a very unique show with some awesome revelations. I try to, create shows where people are going to learn stuff, get inside type of information. Today was definitely one of those shows. I mean, definitely. So if you just tuned in now at the end, make sure you listen to the entire show and really listen, try to comprehend, try to understand everything that's going on. Because I think you're going to be pretty happy about what you learn. And for those people that are into altcoins, and again, I only see the buy Bitcoin, but I know I can't stop people. For those of you who are in the altcoins, I think you're going to be pretty excited after watching this entire show. So I'm Adam Meister. Pound that like button, first of all. I'm Adam Meister, Bitcoin Meister, Disrupt Meister. Remember to subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video. Check out the notes section below. I make a new show every day. We'll be back tomorrow on Saturday. And, of course, Friday. Every Friday is This Week in Bitcoin. See you next week for that show. See you tomorrow for the regular show. Bye-bye, everyone. See ya. All right.